Good morning and welcome. It is about 8 o'clock in the morning here in Ventura, California. It's the 27th day of January 2022. It is 47 degrees and sunny with once again a high wind warning. So if you're a allergy magnet like I am today, you're going to probably feel pretty crappy today because, yeah, allergies suck. All right, so we are continuing our retro reviews of the older stuff from the first edition, second edition, advanced D&D, weird days before Wizards of the Coast of TSR. Thanks again to Adam Pandler, one of my vlogger viewers who suggested that I do this. We're going to do all the ones that I can remember, and then we'll try and pick some older ones up, maybe on the shelves at my friendly local game store, that's Cess Games and Anime here in Ventura, to take a look at. Today, as promised, we're taking a look at Pharoh / the Desert of Desolation. Which has not been revisited, as far as I know, in 5e yet. Several of the quote-unquote classic modules made their way into, what was it called? Tales from the Yawning Portal. But for some reason, this one wasn't. Could be because it's a tournament module, but there were some other tournament modules that were converted to non-tournament modules that then were upgraded. Tomb of Horrors technically started as a tournament convention module. Lost Shrine of Tamagotchi, or whatever that word is, started as a tournament module and then got turned into a regular. So I'm not sure why Desert of Desolation / Pharoh wasn't. It might have something to do with the Tracy Hickman relationship with Wizards of the Coast. It might be that Wizards of the Coast thought a module about a haunted pyramid in the middle of the desert was racist. Or could be they just didn't think it was as popular as Tomb of Horrors and White Plume Mountain. But then they reprinted Hidden Shrine, and most people are like, Hidden Shrine? That's a dumb one of the classics. I don't know. So perhaps this one is going to be revisited by Goodman Games. Goodman Games has revisited a lot of the classics, like Keep on the Borderland and Expedition, and my favorite, Isle of Dread. So I don't know. I don't know how the relationship between Goodman Games and the older product works, why they can do stuff. I don't know why Wizards of the Coast chose not to readdress this one. I don't know why they chose to readdress the ones they did readdress in Yawning Portal, especially since they were going to do Storm King's Thunder, which is just a repackaging homage to Against the Giants, which I believe was in Tales from the Yawning Portal. I'll have to check, so don't quote me on that. So, I don't know. I really don't know. And in the wiki, it doesn't really say why it wasn't. This is, of course, amongst other things, the Tracy Hickman module that introduced us to the Hickman Manifesto, which, of course, Tracy Hickman says wasn't his manifesto. It was other people's. It was his wife and Margaret Weiss's manifesto. We talked about the Hickman Manifesto earlier. Supposedly, it's the thing that changed / ruined Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s. I don't know why. So basically, yeah, it's a haunted pyramid, slightly funhouse dungeon because there's a couple weird things in it. But mostly it's pretty straightforward. You're approached by a ghost. The ghost asks for your aid to, bring life back to the desert. You go through this weird pyramid that doesn't resemble any actual pyramid that's ever been on Earth. There's an anti-gravity thing. There's a weird teleportation thing. There's a lot of other funhousey dungeon things. The funhouse dungeon is something we'll talk about probably in another vlog. So this is, let's see what it says. This involves a tomb which is rumored to be theft-proof. At the start of the adventure, the player characters are confronted by the ghost of a long-dead Pharoh, cursed to wander the sands of his now deserted land for the time onto the end in search of the ones who can break the curse and free him from this world, i.e. the player characters. The characters soon find themselves searching for items that will end the curse and bring them wealth and power. There are 5 levels to explore in the pyramid and a large exterior temple. This adventure concluded a pyramid map and a trap-filled maze. Player characters were driven into the desert for a crime they did not commit. The characters journey to the sunken city of Pazar and from there they must travel to the haunted tomb of an ancient pharaoh. While in the desert, the characters encounter the spirit of the pharaoh, cursed to wander the desert until his tomb is robbed. The pharaoh begs the PCs to remove his staff of ruling and star gem from his tomb to break his curse. The tomb was built to be thief-proof and so far lived up to its retribution. While in the pyramid, the characters can use an item called the Dome of Flight to control the reverse gravity. Carelessness can cause them to fall upwards. The palm trees in this room bear exploding fruit. The characters also encounter a maze with numerous traps. The module contained a wilderness map and a number of smaller adventures as well. That's the basic plot. Here's my pyramid, which I built to be theft-proof. Please go rob it and remove these items from it so you can break the curse that I inadvertently started. Okay, you got to give us a clue or something on how we get into your theft-proof tomb? You got a key or whatever? So you have to figure out how to get into the tomb. The way to get into the tomb, if I remember correctly, was kind of weird. And again, this is sort of how it was a funhouse dungeon. One of the ways in the tomb is you encounter these villagers and they sacrifice you to a fire. But it turns out the sacrifice to the fire actually is not a sacrifice to the fire. It teleports you inside the pyramid proper. So you can imagine a bunch of player characters being captured, watching as either an NPC or another one of their characters gets thrown to this green fire and disappears. And they're like, oh my God, they killed Ben. And then you're like, ah! And the DM's like, oh, shh, don't tell them. And he's like, whatever. Then inside, there's like a big inside jungle with water coming down from the ceiling and this weird jumping puzzle. And this is where the palm trees that have exploding fruit are in it. Of course, palm trees don't have fruit unless they're referring to coconut trees. Palm trees have seeds, if I remember correctly. Actually, let's check before Shadzar calls me out and says I'm wrong. Do palm trees have fruit? Blah, blah, blah. Palm trees, fruit. Okay, so date palms and bananas and some berries. So yes, I guess it was either exploding coconuts or exploding dates. So there are some palm trees that do bear fruit. Ha, Shadzar, gotcha. Because he loves pointing out when I make a mistake. There's these exploding palm fruits that either fall on you. I think I remember there was a monkey that threw them at you. But then there's the big thing is that you can... how do I get up to the upper part of the pyramid? There's all the way up there and the water is coming down and I don't know where the water is coming from. Well, there's, of course, the obvious way. Throw a rope. Have the rogue climb up there. Have the wizard do some spell to get it up there. But this is the reverse gravity room, which is, it was talking about. You reverse the gravity, and you have to be careful because the reverse gravity can crash you into the walls. And, of course, the reverse gravity sends the exploding palms flying. But then you get up to the second and third level, and there's this water puzzle because the water's coming down, and you have to redirect the water because the water is the curse that you want him to break. There's some weird rooms, very few actual monster encounters, and the few monster encounters that you do encounter are mostly undead. A lot of puzzles, a lot of Egyptian-themed type thing. Maybe that's the reason why Wizards of the Coast never revisited it, because it's Egyptian, and we wouldn't want to, be accused of racially profiling actual historical monuments that do, in fact, exist. Eventually you get to the final room and it's like there's a trick and you can't figure it out, but then you figure out the trick and it actually opens up to sort of a quasi-interdimensional weird thing where there's this floating boat in the middle of the sky and you have to ride the floating boat to bring the life back to the desert. And what it is you discover is that when he built the pyramid on the source of the river. So he blocked off the river, thus cursing the desert to suffer its fate. By breaking his curse, you redirect the water to restart the river flowing, bringing life back to the desert, which then, of course, led to the second and third module, the Oasis at White Palm and the Tomb of Martok. And eventually this became a 3-part series called the Desert of Desolation, the second one being Oasis at White Palm. The Oasis, of course, created because you started the river up again. And then the Tomb of Martok, where you go in to fight this undead mummy wizard who turns out to have been the source of everything to begin with. But yeah, Pharoh started as a tournament module, a timed tournament module. How quickly could you get to the top? How quickly could you resolve the puzzle? How quickly could you restart the river? How many points do you get if you didn't restart the river? And then it was rewritten as a sort of a regular module. And then part of the Desert of Desolation, it went from its original 1977 to the 1982 version, which was the more normal D&D version, to the advanced and second edition, probably published in 1982, and then that was pretty much it. Yeah. It's considered a milestone in dungeon design because since the moment they needed to have an overarching cohesive plot, usually with epic overtones, dungeons were not silly little mages, but structures that made sense architecturally, and encounters had to make sense to the overall plot. The new movement of dungeon design was called the Hickman Revolution. Of course, it's not the Hickman Revolution. It's the Laura Hickman and Margaret Rice Revolution. Oh, there's the allergy. So yeah, this was like one of the first modules they claimed, or adventures they claimed, that said, oh, well, here's actually monsters that make sense, and a module in a dungeon that makes sense. Of course, if anybody's actually seen a real pyramid, yeah. Architecturally makes sense, no, because, you know, the real pyramids don't open up to giant underground jungles with magic waterfalls and 5 levels of traps. No, the actual rooms in an actual pyramid, or there's like 3 or 4 or 5, you know. If you've ever seen like a map of a real pyramid, they're not as extensive or Indiana Jones filled with Rube Goldberg level of inane traps as the module would predict. So yeah, architecturally, yeah, no, I'm sorry, you can't fit an entire jungle with exploding date palms inside. Even the largest of pyramids is mostly stone with very few rooms. I mean, you know, occasionally they discover a new room, but right, like the Tomb of King Tut was like 4 rooms, and that's like one of the most famous. Yeah, so sorry for anybody who thinks that the stuff you see in Indiana Jones is actually real, and there actually are pyramids filled with outrageous Rube Goldberg levels of ingenious traps and mummies and undead and treasures. No. Architecturally, they're amazing. You know, how did they do that? Aliens, magic, hundreds of years of Jewish slaves. We don't know. Maybe it's because of the Jewish slave thing that's why they're like, can't touch Pharoh, because, oh no, we don't want to, you know, bring up bad memories of slavery in Egypt. I don't know why they wouldn't revisit this one. Maybe it just doesn't make sense. Maybe they're waiting to do all 3. Maybe they couldn't get the rights. Anyways, I played through it a couple times. It's great. The ending is always a surprise. Every time I played through it, the ending the DM has done differently, which is weird. You know, like the first time I played through it, you reactivate it. There's the boat. You reactivate the river. You ride the boat down to escape, and it's sort of like a flume ride. You know, Egyptian-themed waterfall flume-fried log ride. But eventually, the river reclaims, and you're riding this boat down the river, and there's some treasure in the boat and stuff like that. The second time I played through it, the boat was actually floating in the air, and you had to ride it through the sky. And then there's like this whole thing where you helped Ra, the god of the sun, do a trip of the sun around the earth. If you know anything about Egyptian mythology and how the sun god pulls the sun behind him on his chariot, And then when the sun goes down, it's him taking it around to the other side of the earth through the land of the dead. And you had to fight off these spirits in the realm of the dead before Ra could finish his circle and bring it back. And that's how you broke the curse. And then the third time I read through it, it was back to being a flume ride. And then it was really way more flume ridey. Like the guy threw in a whole bunch of extra things with like encounters while you were going down. It felt more like an actual theme park flume ride, which I think wasn't in the module, but more like he went through a flume ride, because I know there's an Egyptian themed flume ride, I think in Atlanta, or is it, I know there's one in the Germany's film park, and I think there's a flume ride in Atlanta that's Egyptian themed, but I'm not sure at one of the Atlanta theme parks. So maybe the guy went through that and was like, this would be great, I'm gonna add it to Pharoh. I don't know, just every time I went through Pharoh, and I've been through it at least 3 times that I remember, the ending was different. So I don't know if that's in the module, because when I ran it, it was very straightforward. The boat's there, you ride the boat down, you restart the water, and that's how you get the water out of the pyramid and restart the river. And then inevitably that led to Oasis of White Palm. But every time I played it, different escapes. But of course the module's been revisited a couple times, from its original source, then its second printing, then its complete printing in Desert Desolation, and then I think they redid Desert Desolation a second time towards the end. It might have even been converted to third, though I see no mention of it here in the wiki, so I don't know. Anyways, fun module, lots of great ideas. If you are looking for a classic pulp Egyptian pyramid, old school, sort of makes sense, good story, tragic main character, weird ending, lots of fun stuff, Rube Goldberg, Indiana Jones style traps. This is a good one. What I would do today was I would probably mash it together with a couple other Egyptian themed, pyramid themed adventures to sort of expand upon the plot. I would probably keep the ending with the flume ride and really just have like the flume ride be a second part of the adventure, because I love flume rides, I love theme parks, I love dark rides, and that's just cool. I love that. Everybody else was like, this is dumb. I was like, this is awesome. We're riding a boat down the side of a pyramid. This is like a flume ride. This is amazing. Why aren't you guys enjoying this? But whatever. All in all, this is a great one. It's one of my favorite old modules. I just love everything about it. Of course, you know, I loved Egypt and pyramids and mummies when I was growing up. And, you know, I got to see King Tut's treasures when they were in Los Angeles way back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, yeah, great stuff. I highly recommend it, but it's probably going to be hard to find a copy. Maybe Goodman Games will revisit it. Maybe they won't. I really don't know how that works. Till next time, I am the OGGM, your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, and general internet nonsense. Thanks again to Adam Pandler for this retro idea. Are there any retro modules from the old days you'd like to see me review? I'm also probably going to take a look at some of the OGL weird stuff that came out third party. And join me tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Southern California time as we take a look at the mysterious world of 5th edition third-party products and what's the difference between a 5e D&D product, a 5e product, and just a uses D20 product. So that might be an hour, might be longer. I try and keep mine under around an hour, no longer than 2 hours. I know some people's have gone like on 7 hours, but it's like I have nothing to talk about for 7 hours. Anyways, if that's something that interests you, we'll be live streaming that tomorrow night, unless things happen. Till then, please like, please share, please subscribe. Please tell me what you think I should change and stuff like that. Suggestions are already appreciated. Now, I must go off into the desert and look for the recipe for that really good coffee that we had that one time in the to get off my land.